Well, hey, Chicago, what do you say? CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app, use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Luke, Corey, Cody. And a healthy chat already started. We appreciate that as we begin the Memorial Day weekend with a thumping from the Reds. All I'm going to say is this, 19-1 in 24 hours. Outscored 19-1 by the Mets and Reds in less than 24 hours. Cody, go ahead.
I don't really have anything to say.
Well,
I'm not going to read the YouTube chat today because I don't want to
Can't take it?
I mentally can't take it today.
I'll read it.
People tweeting at me, how is Master Boney on this roster instead of Nick Magical? It fucking matters. Give me a break. Anyway, yeah. I mean, this.
Before we hopped on, I asked if you had a rant for us today, or if after watching that you even had the energy to muster a rant.
At the beginning, if they would have stayed in the game, I would have mustered a rant for this one, because. What did I say on pregame? Christopher Morel playing right field is going to give me.
That was quick.
Is gonna annoy me, and it happened literally in the first inning, bro. This happened in the first inning. Listen, people lose the ball in the sun all the time at Wrigley, but the dude's never played right field at Wrigley.
It's a hard right field,
and we've seen that he's probably best playing center at best out there, and that was annoying. That hit alone led to a run that went against Steele and his earned run average, and it's not even Justin Steele's fault. The ball stayed in, and he should have caught it. A major league outfielder catches that.
He took a few bad routes too.
And then there's a few bad routes. There was another one where I believe he fielded it incorrectly or something. I can't. There was two defensive plays that that didn't work.
Yeah,
out.
the
Charlie
first
says
one
it
was
wasn't
a triple,
an error.
but.
Oh, yeah,
it was a triple, but probably should have been a double
Probably
if he takes the right
double.
route to cut it off.
Right.
There's just
bad
those
routes.
things. It's we were wondering as we were watching if there's a strong logic to Tauchman not playing right and Morel playing center, which he's obviously more comfortable at least at Wrigley Field and has spent more time at. But this is why we had the conversation of being kind of wondering aloud why he wasn't pursuing third base more in the minors, because that's the position the Cubs have the need at. And, I think you would hope that figuring out how to dial in those throws and calm down those throwing mechanisms would be a little easier than trying to play multiple outfield spots, especially as we always talk about a tough outfield in Wrigley Field. But this was just, that's the first thing, but that nothing good happened in this game. So
the first inning, Steele allows 2 runs. And one of them is because of the triple that probably should have been a double. And then the third one came because of the miss, the losing the ball in the sun. So there's 2 of the 3 runs, honestly, on Morel there that all go against Steele. And listen, Steele was not – this was his worst start of the year. I'm not even trying to make any excuses for him. But the defense in general didn't help him out. It wasn't even all just Morel. I mean Steele himself didn't help himself out on the bunt or whatever. Maybe that's more on Mervis. Mervis charges the ball, and he gets it, and then Steele's trying to cover first. He tries to barehand it, whatever. That's a play where Mervis probably has to just go to first and let Steele try and make the play. And if it doesn't work out, fine. But they didn't get an out, and it was when that play happened, that that was the description of today's game. It was just sloppy.
Yeah.
And we
Tauchman overran a ball, I think, on a single up the middle. He overran it. That moved the base.
And we've
runners.
kind of praised his defense
bad.
this week and that's why we assumed that he was getting a little bit more of a run out in center while Bellinger was still out. Like the defense was just not good today. And obviously, and we complained a lot about the lineup in pregame. Outside of Morel getting the hit in the 6th or 7th inning, whatever, like there's nothing. And all I will say, though, is that if you thought Hunter Green was going to come into Wrigley and get rocked by the Cubs, whether the Cubs had a good lineup or not, or if the Cubs lineup was hitting well like it had against the Mets, like I don't know what to tell you other than like maybe dial it back, because Hunter Green was a top draft pick, throws 100 miles per hour, and even though he's given up home runs and even though he's given up runs, the guy has good stuff. They gave him a contract extension. The guy has proven, or he's en route to be like an ace for their staff one day when they are good again.
Well, I'd take him.
I would absolutely take him on
100%.
the Cubs right now. I don't care how many home runs he's given up or how many runs he's given. I would love to have Hunter Green on the Cubs rotation right now. So there were a lot of people on social media that was telling me, oh, the Cubs, again, they can't hit off a guy who has a 4.5 ERA or just a bad ERA coming in. One guy used the pitcher win-loss record against my point that I was trying to make on social media that, Hunter Green, give him credit where credit's due. The guy's got a 12.46, something like that, strikeouts per 9 innings. I don't think the Cubs have anyone that high, strikeouts per 9. Like, Hunter Green is going to be a star one day. He's just going through it with the being a young pitcher in baseball, right? And the Reds,
he's only 23.
And yeah. So, again, the lineup was awful today, as we said in pregame. The defense was awful today, but I will give Hunter Green all the credit in what he did today, because 6 no-hit innings, 11, 12 strikeouts. That's not that, like, yes, the Cubs offense should have, like, they should have been better, but what do you say to something like that? Like, he was great. And the only reason he didn't throw a no-hitter the entire game was because the one thing the Cubs were able to do was make him throw a lot of pitches. So the plate approach perhaps was there. They just couldn't get a hit. So, and that's credit to Green because he's got great stuff. So, I mean, I don't really, I couldn't muster up a rant for this because it's like you lost 9-0. It's not like you were in the game. You beat yourself today. You had a huge letdown after winning a series. Like, maybe they can bounce back tomorrow and Sunday. I don't know.
Maybe. But here's the thing, Cody. When you aren't angry and ranting after back-to-back bad losses, it's a bad sign. It's a bad sign for your baseball team.
It's worse when you feel nothing.
Yeah, when you feel nothing after 2 losses like that, that's not a good sign. Our chat is living up to its regular billing. 3 comments in a row. 1, the Godfather, Michael Collada. This isn't marquee. Let's cut to the chase. Fire Ross before it's too late. Sean Caselli, next comment. Is Jimmy Carter alive? The one before that, Barb. Are they live?
This isn't marquee.
The chat is.
What are we sugarcoating here, Collada? Am I sugarcoating for you?
Here's the deal. I may actually enjoy an hour and a half commute and traffic home more than I will the last 6 innings of that game.
The chat is. The chat would have David Ross and I think Jed Hoyer out of their offices tomorrow if we were doing that. It's just like. It's super disappointing, right? And, like, I don't have any delusions of, like, where this team is or who they are. Like, we talked about it in the pregame, like, looking at the lineup, you're not going to convince yourself that team is immediately winning the World Series. But just disappointing. They win that series with the Mets, and you have an opportunity to keep stringing together a solid homestand against a Reds team that is, not as bad as we've seen versions of them in years past, but they're still not good. And you had you had Justin Steele on the mound, and just from the jump, I mean, this was just just a waste of everybody's afternoon. Yeah. And, again, now, like, you hope that they still have an opportunity to win the series. If they win these next 2 games, you'd feel great about the homestand so far. But, like, with Tyone going now, like, you just don't feel great about that. And these games are so frustrating because it was just an utter clown show out there. The Justin Steele has been phenomenal for this team, but today he was not good. He was leaving a lot of balls over the middle of the plate, a lot of hard contact. This was not his best start. It's fine because he's been great, but he wasn't good. The defense was atrocious all over the field. They're getting no hit for 7 innings? Like, this was just an absolute mess of a game, coming off a solid series and just immediately kind of bringing us all back down to earth in terms of like thinking, hey, let's turn it around and have a good stretch here.
Ryan sent a tweet earlier after Steele came out, and it was a screen grab from Baseball Savant of all the exit velocities for the Reds. And, it goes 104, 103, 101, 101, 99, 98, and down. And he also stated that coming into today, Steele was in the 96th percentile in average exit velocity and 97th percentile in hard hit percentage. For all of you who don't give a shit about analytics, all I have to tell you is, or all I have to say, if you don't understand what I just said, because I barely understand what I just said, is that when you're in the 90th percentile or higher, that means you're really good at whatever that is. And so he's been really good at limiting hard contact all season, but today he wasn't. And
nobody hits the ball hard against him all year. That's why he's been one of the best pitchers.
He doesn't give up barrels.
Today, 10 hits, and they were rocking those 10 hits.
Yeah. Right.
Because he left a lot up over the plate.
Yeah.
He just didn't have it. Like, yes, Steele had a bad game, but it doesn't diminish what he's done this season.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell Barnhart and some of the guys went out there when he was getting pulled, and it was like, we probably should have had your back today after you've had ours all season. Like, I don't worry about Steele over the last 2 starts or whatever you want to say. Like, Steele's fine. Steele's an all-star this season. This is about multiple things this game.
For the most part.
Yeah. It's about the lineup. Yeah. It's about where guys are playing. Again, I don't want to agree too much with everybody in the chat because then they'll all say they agree with me. And
that's
that wouldn't
what you
be
want,
right.
though, Luke.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. But Gary points out that at this point in his career, Morel is a DH. It is true. Like, he's not an average fielder at any of these positions right now. I'm not saying
at least the ones that are open for him.
That's correct. I'm not saying the Cubs shouldn't play him somewhere in the field. I'm just saying we talked about it before the game, before it happened, as Cody pointed out. To me, he's a DH, or the need you have is for him to improve at third base. Because you don't have a need for him to improve at second or short.
Right.
His 2 best positions. So I don't know that you have a need in right field with Seiya. I don't know if you have a need in left because you signed Happ long-term. PCA's coming. Focus on the future at third base if you're going to play him somewhere. Sprinkle him the other places. I just think Seiya could have played. I'm not saying they would have won. I know they wouldn't have won if Seiya played, but
I'm intrigued to see if Ryan can give us some insight on why Seiya didn't play.
Or just the
today.
lineup in general.
I'll be stunned if it wasn't just rest.
This is also, yes, to the comment we're looking at now. We will talk about Morel breaking up the no-no because it did win me who you got again. So we will talk about that. But
I'm sure that's
I think to the point, look, obviously as we've talked about with other guys, this is a tough ask for Christopher Morel, right? Like, He comes up. He's always asked to play multiple positions. It's not an easy thing to do, and this is not always the position he was asked to play, right? He's actually played center field a good bit at Wrigley Field. The thing for me that I think that highlights, though, and we talked about that while we were watching the game, is this is not the first game where we've watched this team have to put somebody out of position in right field specifically or third base, where then we're asking questions of why isn't the defense that good? Why, was this route not as good? It just isn't particularly good roster construction, right? And we talked so much in the offseason about how this team was constructed to play defense, to pitch and play defense. That's constantly playing guys out of position, not having a bench where you can plug and play these guys, where the defense remains good. That's the bigger issue, right? Like, it's not specifically an issue of, Morel in this game, right? Or Mastroboni, the one game that he didn't dive in right field, right, earlier in the year. It's not about like these specific things. The guys are out there doing their best. It's a roster construction issue. When you want to win on pitching and defense, we can't keep having this conversation, right? If Seiya Suzuki isn't on the team, we just don't have somebody that can play right field. Like, that's not serious roster construction when you're not built to blow teams out and you are specifically trying to get weak contact and catch the ball. Yeah. It just is something that keeps getting highlighted, and you can pick any of these guys, right? Like, we can pick almost anyone on the bench, and their numbers are just terrible, right? Mastroboni's numbers are terrible. Trey Mancini is a sub-replacement level player. Like, they sent Madrigal down because his numbers were awful. Tucker Barnhart's been awful at the plate. It's tough out there. Like, the bottom portion of this roster has been really, really bad. And circling all back to the defensive thing, we can't even rely on that. It's not even like you look at today and say, oh, this is a defensive lineup. They're not going to hit, but this is a goal. They're not even doing that.
Plan, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can argue that the quote-unquote roster construction has been the biggest problem with the Cubs all season, because in April we cried about Morel and Mervis not being here because of the offense, or the offense needing the Cubs needing the offense, at least towards the end of April and beginning of May especially. And then even the first 2 weeks when the Cubs didn't have a right fielder, we've watched things play out, and now I'm wondering why did they go with Mastroboni or whoever else they put in right field when Seiya was out instead of Tauchman, considering all of the defense that we've seen Tauchman play outside of his one mess up today. Why didn't they start the season with him in right field? These are like, who is that on? Is that on Jed Hoyer? Is that on David Ross? Who's making these roster quote unquote decisions in terms of,
who's to blame?
Right. Like,
probably both.
I would say it's a little bit of both.
Yes.
And like, it's almost like, listen,
Jed took some of the blame.
He did. Let me finish.
He said, I didn't. Oh, sorry.
You're fine. It's almost at a point where, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that fans were actually right about a lot of things that we've been complaining about for months. In a way, maybe not fully, but in a way, like,
I'm always right.
Of course, Corey's always right.
And so is Luke. I agree with
so is Rory. And so is Luke. And even I think I'm always right. But credit to me whenever I say I'm wrong. Big of me to do that. But the thing is like, we were right about Morel. We were right about Mervis.
That they should be up.
That they should have been up. Because where would this team be without both? I mean, I know Mervis is off to a slow start, but at least he's been playing better at first base than Eric Hosmer did. And even Mancini. And Morel is, he's, for 2 weeks he's been hitting the ball nonstop. And then you look at the outfield defense, and with Bellinger out, Tauchman's played solid defense and had good at-bats. Like, why did, not that fans were calling for Tauchman, but like there's these decisions that they've made, and it's like, why didn't you give this veteran a shot first over Mastroboni or whoever in right field? And why did you go with Eric Hosmer and Nick Madrigal instead of Christopher Morel, a guy who had 16 homers for you last year and provides some versatility and this and that? And not that I think he should have been playing right field whenever he started the year with the Cubs, or if he would have started the year with the Cubs, but there's always been a spot for him, no matter what, no matter where they play him. There's always been a spot for him, and
even if that's DH.
Yeah, and like there's other guys well that I'm probably not thinking of, but like it's kind of alarming whenever the fans can sit here and say that we're right about a bunch of things whenever the organization is supposed to be smarter than us.
Yeah, and just because you were running through some of those guys, I'm going to clarify this, right? I did not think they should have kept this person. I'm not saying, like, in hindsight, I was right. I'm only pointing out that Zach McKinstry a guy that they kept around.
You
They
said
kept
last
playing.
night.
You said that
right.
last night.
Has a 128 WRC plus. So just adding that on to what you're saying
was leading off for the
about
Tigers
these
last
guys, I'm not sitting here saying I thought they should have kept him or that he was going to be good. The reason I bring that up, in addition to what you were just saying, is like, we don't get paid to make these decisions and be correct.
Yeah.
Jed gets paid to make these decisions and be correct. He chose Madrigal, Mastroboni, et cetera, over McKinstry, and right now that looks incorrect, right? And these little things on this type of roster really matter, right? And they add up. And you look at guys like, Mancini's been better than he was earlier in the season, but he's still been a below-average hitter. He's still been a below-average fielder. He's a sub-replacement level player. That's the guy you picked, right? Like, Jed went and brought in him and Hosmer. They look like two huge misses. Like,
To be fair, Jose Abreu's been awful.
sure. But that was something that
But
fans
so
wanted.
has Benintendi and other guys.
That was something
it was
that
reported,
fans wanted,
according to
not
Bruce Levine,
necessarily
I'm pretty
Jed.
sure Bruce Levine said the Cubs were in on Jose Abreu. However much that's
Yeah.
true or not, but that's just what was reported. My thing when it comes to first base is that I understood Mervis not starting the year with the Cubs, but you can definitely argue that he should have been up earlier, considering the at-bats that he already had in the minor leagues. And again, the offense hasn't been everything that we all hoped, but the defense sure has. And at least if you're getting that over there and you're getting him quality at-bats, or getting him at-bats, you're giving the fans at least something, which is hope for the future of a certain player, and just at least watching a guy that might have a future on the team. Those other guys, even though Mancini's on a 2-year deal, like those guys, it don't matter with those guys. And so I'm going off on a rabbit hole now on a bunch of other things related to this team, but like this is like when you talk about the roster construction of the Chicago Cubs in 2023, it arguably might be the biggest issue, because they've had certain guys on this roster that shouldn't be on the roster, and other guys in Iowa that should have been on this roster. And for the first 2-3 weeks in April, you got away with it, and now here you are on May 26th, and you're 22 and 28, and all those games that you lost whenever that hot stretch started to end, it's coming back to haunt you, man. And right now, do I feel dumb for predicting 88 wins for this team at the beginning of the year? Shut up, Luke. Do I feel dumb for that? No, because I didn't think they're going to be this bad at roster construction. You know what I mean?
Well,
I thought they were going to play those three guys in the outfield every single day, and I thought we're going to get Swanson and Horner up the middle every single day, and that they're going to play Morel at third base, and they're going to play Mervis at first before the end of May, or before the end of before May 1st, or at least by May 1st, and there's no, outside of those first five guys, there's just no consistency in terms of who they want to play. Sometimes it feels like, and then the bench just hasn't even been average enough to anything close to what I thought it would be. So I mean,
it also is
what if this team is worse than last year?
No, it's not that bad.
So you're not ready to go there yet?
No, it's not that bad.
Do you think there's a possibility?
Well, if they sell at the deadline, like everyone in the chat probably says that they need to do now, depending on how many guys they sell.
What percentage do you think that would be? What do you think the percentage is that this team could right the ship and get to the playoffs? What percentage would you say this team might end up with a worse record than last year?
Well, I did see someone in the chat say that we're getting close to stock up, trade stock up,
Yeah, I saw
trade
it.
stock down territory.
To be fair, I don't think they're there yet either. But I think all of the potential holes that we saw on this team, there's still a lot there. I still wonder about, we mentioned Mervis and Morel. I think Morel needs to be here. I think Mervis still needs to be here, mostly because there's no other option at first base. I do sit here and wonder when I watch Mervis struggle, and it's a small sample size, I do wonder if signing Bellinger isn't the worst idea. Because
to stick around.
To stick
You
around.
mean, yeah, extend him, you mean. Yeah.
Also a small sample size, but I do wonder if signing him to a deal isn't the worst idea. And then when PCA is ready, shifting him to first base if Mervis isn't your guy.
I think also, like,
I don't know what they're going to do if Mervis isn't the guy.
Well, I think on Mervis too, like the timing, I think is a little frustrating in terms of. I get that you didn't want to turn it over to him, but something that Brendan was railing on last year was not bringing him up last year and letting him get some, some of his feet under him at the major league level.
In games that don't matter.
Yeah, and like now you've ended up in this place where like you ended up bringing him in where a lot of people were hoping he would be a lift to the offense that desperately needed it, and that's just not a good like circumstance to bring a guy into. Like ultimately, he's a rookie, facing MLB pitching for the first time. So like, of course, he's a part of this group on offense that's struggling, but like, yeah, right. Like he's a rookie, like getting his footing. The timing of it just doesn't seem beneficial to really anybody, right? Because obviously you'll have the rest of the year, like whatever he does, you'll learn a lot about him and you'll be informed going into the off season. But I feel like you just would have been better off learning all this beforehand. And again, you would hope that Mancini or Hosmer would be better. Whether that was a good idea to hope that or not is, not my call. But now you're in this place where he's a part of this bigger group that's struggling. And, anytime you mention, hey, this guy's struggling, people say, what about Mervis? And it's like, Mervis is a rookie. It's just not particularly good timing when it feels like the season is like on the ropes, right? It's like, oh, this is what happens. Like you thrust a rookie into a pretty like important stretch. And, as we talked about in the pregame, like we're already seeing the articles about the trade deadline. So this isn't like something that we want to be talking about or whatever, but they're talking about it. They have to play better soon.
And I don't want anybody to think we're dumping on Morel or Mervis.
No,
that's not the case. I've like Corey said, it's a lot of pressure to put on two guys to try and keep this team afloat while other guys aren't playing well.
When it comes to trade deadline, to go off your point, and then I'll go to you. All I asked for the Cubs to be in July, going into August, was to be hovering around 500. Because if they are, then potentially they could sell but also buy at the same time. Maybe sell some of these veteran relievers or maybe one of these veteran bats they have, whatever. Depending on how
6 under now, right?
Yeah, depending on whoever's playing the best, whatever. If they're hanging around 500 and they're able to do that, and then insert some of these guys from Iowa, like some of these relievers, and perhaps add a bat or something like that, then let it ride the rest of the year and see what happens. I'm not saying they should buy heavily, like trade for Ohtani. I've never said anything like that. Anyone who thought that they might actually do that, you're delusional. You're more delusional than I am whenever I said this team could win 88 games, all right? To go off your point, Mervis and Morel, yeah, I've sat here and criticized Morel's defense in right field because it wasn't good. But the whole thing about Morel and Mervis is that in a year like this, as we've talked before, as much as we think that, maybe if like some of these things went right, you added guys like Swanson and Bellinger and a few of these other, good players, maybe this team could be playing meaningful games in September. And that's why my anger with the whole Morel and Mervis thing not being here earlier cost them games. There were games where the offense has just been so abysmal before they were here, and you just wonder how it would have been if those guys were here. And I'm not saying they were going to drive in all the runs and all that, but their at-bats at least would have been better than what we saw from the other guys. And so I think that's my biggest thing about a lot of that. Again, though, you can't go back and say, Morel would have got a hit in this situation in a game that the Cubs lost, or if Mervis was hitting here, he would have got a hit in this situation, and the scenario would have gone different. But there would have been a little bit more boost in the lineup because the first month of the year was top heavy. And now a lot of those guys have come down to earth a little bit. You're still getting good play out of Swanson, Nico, and Seiya Suzuki's really started to heat up, and a few of these other dudes, but like in April, Nico was hitting like 350. I think he's around 300 now, maybe a little bit lower, but like 290-ish or whatever, right? Like, you can't expect someone like Nico to hit 350. Now, if he is, he's going to be in the MVP race. But, like, there's that, you just can't expect that. And so, like, I just feel like the Cubs have really, really missed on the opportunity to pick up a few more games if they had Morel and Mervis here. And, like, that goes into the whole point of where they're sitting right now. They're sitting at 22 and 28. And, you know, the season's on the ropes, like Corey said. And you're putting all this pressure on Justin Steele to now pitch suddenly like a Cy Young pitcher. When we come into the year, we're just hoping that he'd just replicate the second half of last year. And probably people in this chat that I haven't been reading are probably going off on him right now just because he had a bad start. Like, he doesn't deserve that. Thank you, chat, for not doing that. It's and then we're blaming all these other guys for this and that. And it's just like, at the end of the day, the Cubs, they didn't take advantage to this point. They haven't taken advantage of the opportunity of having the depth that they had in Iowa. That was a big thing they talked about, is how they have all this organizational depth. Well, great, use it correctly. They really haven't to this point. It's you like Corey said, they put Mervis in a situation where, okay, he's developing, but you're also putting him in a lot of pressure to perform, considering the team, like, they're trying to win games. And then Morel, you're playing him all over the field. Thankfully, he's hitting. What if he wasn't hitting and was, you know, playing all over the field? What would we think about Morel then? You know what I mean? Like, and you know he's not going to hit 9 homers in 12 games in this next stretch. Like, that's just impossible. We were lucky to see Sammy Sosa do it 36 times. Like, there's just so many things related to just how they've constructed the roster and guys they've called up and sent down and called up and sent down that, in a way, you can argue have cost the Cubs wins. And, like, that's my entire point of this, of what I've been saying the last few minutes.
Today is also a good, you know, moment where I think when some of those losses earlier in the year are frustrating and people are talking about bullpen moves or little decisions, like, I feel like today is one of those days where that's why people freak out about some of those things, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to manage from the sidelines, but, like, thinking to, you know, some of those Dodger games where Fulmer was out there even though a lot of people felt he shouldn't be out there, right? The reason people harp on that stuff is because Justin Steele has been phenomenal for over a year now. He's going to have bad games.
Yeah.
Marcus Stroman's going to have bad games. These guys are going to have bad games. When you don't win the ones you're in, right? You're going to lose a lot of these, right? Like, there's that there's the old saying, right? Like, everybody wins 50, loses 50. It's what you do in the others, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, so there's going to be games like this. It's going to happen. Like, Steele's been great. He's going to give you a chance to win 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, right? But he's going to have his blow-ups. When you don't do those little things, it gets really frustrating. Ultimately, for me, like, we said this on the pregame, like, I know guys get hurt. I know certain guys are out. I know there's different considerations with who's in the minors and who you want playing every day and this, that, and the other. Like, it's very difficult to look at the lineup they threw out there today and take this team seriously.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, we're trying to, like, look at it all and not make sweeping conclusions. I know the chat's, like, kind of on us for even, like, suggesting that this season might be salvageable, but, like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and, like, make such a grand conclusion in May, right? Like, but it's one of those things where I do agree. Like, you look at this lineup today, and again, how we got there is a bigger conversation. But you look at it and you go, this isn't serious. You know what I mean? This is just not a serious effort from this organization. And comparing that to coming into the offseason, what they claimed the ambition of this team was going to be, like, hope to be competitive, yada yada. With that lineup, no, it's not. I don't care if it's, you want to talk about David Ross, you want to talk about Jed Hoyer. I saw somebody mention Carter Hawkins, the elusive Carter Hawkins in the chat, right? Wherever you want to look at to make blame or who makes these decisions, this lineup, when you're facing 6 games under 500 at home, reading articles about how they're going to trade people at the deadline if they don't get into competition sooner rather than later, and also for that to happen, they'd have to be better than 500. They'd have to really show Jed Hoyer they were competitive. This lineup on a Friday, beautiful historic Wrigley Field at 120, it's not serious. It just isn't.
There's no way this team is 10 games over 500 by the time the trade deadline comes around, and that's where I would think they'd have to be for certain players not to be considered being moved, like 7 or 8 or 9 games over 500. Somebody was tweeting right near the end of the game saying, hey, this is the same record they had in 2007. Let me tell you, 2007 did not end well. I watched it. You watched it. So, yes, that team made the playoffs, but, like, this is a totally different group of players. There's a completely different vibe. And to Corey's point, before the day started, I said maybe we should have been more positive on the pregame show, but everybody felt it, that this was kind of a game that didn't look like they were being serious about going into it. It was almost as if they were saying, it's the Reds, we might be able to get away with it today.
When people joke in the chat or on Twitter
they shouldn't
that
be
they're
treating it like that
not trying to win
at this point in the year.
You look at some of the things they do, and their lineup today is one of those moments. I don't believe that, right? But their lineup today is one of those moments where I go, well, they're not trying very hard. They're not trying very hard to win. Come on.
It's either they're not trying hard to win, or they're really that fucking dumb, dude. Like that's what do you want me to think? Like I don't know. Like that's
it's possible that the rebuild is a lot. If it continues this way, then all the stuff we talked about for the first month of the season, everybody complaining about, I want to see Morel, I want to see Mervis. Brendan saying every game counts. We're trying to make the postseason. If the team turns out to be like last year's team, and the trend continues down, and they can't right the ship, and I know it's not like 3 months of losing. There's a long season, but if it continues that trend to the trade deadline, none of the stuff that Brendan was worried about will matter, because it will be a sell-off, and it will be phase 3 or phase 4 or whatever it might be. That's the real danger.
Yeah.
That they don't turn it around. We got a break, Cody. Well, save your thought. Hold on to it. I want to bring up some positive news. We're selling baseball shirts this weekend. Can I turn that frown upside down? Turn it into a smile? Huh?
You can try.
33% off all of our shirts at allchgo.com. The CHGO Locker. Our baseball shirts. The Memorial Day sale starts tomorrow. 33% off. Plus, if you're diehard, add that on top of that.
So
stackable.
33% off plus another 20% off if you're a diehard.
Plus, if you sign up to be with diehard, a free shirt on top of that.
Oh, wow. So you get one free shirt, and then you can get a really cheap shirt after that. That's 2 shirts. You'll have 2 more shorts. Two more shirts.
Shirtapalooza.
You'll have 2 more shirts than you did before. So, math.
Math it. Tell me about the Combat Energy Efficiency Program, Cody.
Well, these lights are bright, and the sun is bright. That has nothing to do with ComEd, but it's bright lights, guys. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program has a lot to do with that. It's committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
That's right. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. Also offers free facility assessments that can find energy-saving tips, maybe HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
How does it work, Luke?
Well, they have an authorized engineer that'll work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals, your needs, in person, virtual, however you want to do it. Then within about 3 to 4 weeks, you get a detailed assessment plan that you can start working on right away. Each recommendation includes estimated energy savings, cost savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, don't sleep on this. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule a free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Ooh, ComEd.com/poweringbiz, Luke.
That's it. Schedule it today, Cody.
Well, if you guys were out at beautiful historic Wrigley Field today, your shady rays would have been good to have, because you could have shaded your eyes from the sun, and you could have shaded your eyes from
the
the
bad.
play on the field, and to cover your face whenever you're just sad. Anyway, Shady Rays, they help with many things like that. So take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Shady Rays Memorial Day sales this weekend, guys. It's live right now. Go to shadyrays.com and get 35% off all their sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. It's a lot of 5-star reviews.
If you're playing outfield at Wrigley Field, throw on the Shady Rays.
Does Christopher Morel catch that ball if he's wearing Shady Rays?
Listen,
Probably. Maybe.
Again, I'm not
don't
blaming Morel
No.
for the game. There were 1,000
There were
reasons
plenty
they
of
lost
reasons why
that
they
game.
lost the game.
Got the first hit.
He did get the first hit. And, again, I don't blame him for being in right field or left field in Houston or where. Put him in the best position to succeed.
That's on the manager.
It's on somebody.
It's definitely the manager,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
so-
and I've been a defender.
And again, I don't know that Seiya doesn't have something wrong. Like, I don't know why Seiya would be off. We're going to ask Ryan if somebody asked him after the game.
Yeah.
You just trying to rest him because of the injury and a night game into a day game and a lot of games? Man, lineup, at the very least, could he DH?
Well, you
Get him off his feet and DH him? I know that doesn't solve the right field problem, but...
Well, Corey said it best, or he said something along the lines of it earlier, like they could have put Tauchman in right field because he's played all 3 outfield positions throughout his career, and then they could have put Morel in center. If they absolutely had to sit Seiya today, they could have done that. At least Morel has experience in center field at Wrigley Field. And I think I also said on pregame that, like, we were, for as much as we all complained about Jason Hayward because he couldn't hit, the dude was unreal defensively in right field at Wrigley. Like that, like if you ever thought that Jason Hayward brought no value to this team whatsoever, just watch this team play right field when Seiya Suzuki's not out there this year, and you will completely change your mind. You just will.
Even Seiya struggled last year.
Yeah, well,
And he's supposed to be a great outfielder coming over.
Yeah, and he's
Not easy.
He's even had some moments himself. So it's like that's kind of my point, is that they could have just put Morel in a position where he's actually comfortable. If they were even in the outfield, if they actually wanted to do it, could have played Tauchman and right. Like, I don't know if things go any differently, but at least he's more comfortable in center. It just doesn't make any sense to put him in right field when he's never played there before.
So, back-to-back horrific games. Horrific. Just pummeled by 2 teams that are below average. And tomorrow, Cody goes to the ball game, and Tyone's on the mound. What do you expect? I'm hoping a couple extra days fixed it. But if things don't go well for Tyone, you think the vibes are bad now.
Yeah.
I hope they
Gary said earlier, too.
Gary said earlier. In my defense, I am going.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just saying you're going to see it in person. You're referring to your record versus Corey's?
No,
this is something he
Corey,
wanted to bring
Corey
up.
will bring this up because he is who he is. But the only reason I'm going is because her parents are going and she wanted to go. So that's why we're going. I don't, because because of my record at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, I didn't want to go.
Whatever, just go.
Don't let the facts give away a good story.
Now, have you ever worn pants to a game there this season?
We need to be trying all
questionable.
possible combinations to get this right.
Barb, for the love of God, please don't go.
This is also, it's not the biggest thing that happened today, and I mean, he was only in there for an out, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out why would Adbert Alzolay come into the...
I don't have an answer.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you use one
Same
of
thing
the
happened
only
yesterday.
relievers you can trust at this point in a game where, what was it, 9-0?
I'd rather have Barnhart go out and pitch.
I know Assad. I know Assad had to leave the
Seriously.
game. No,
I'm with you.
legitimately,
Could have improved on his ERA from
one
yesterday.
batter shouldn't take Adbert out for tomorrow or the rest of the
No.
series. But why is he even up? Why is he even an option in that position? Like
They easily
that's one that
could-
is like
that's easily one where they could have gone straight to the guy in the very back of the pen right now. You know what I mean? Like whoever they had the least amount of confidence in at all. You know, instead you went with your number one bullpen arm. Thank God he threw one pitch, but like it's like you got him up to,
Like,
to
why
you got
is
him up to
he-
throw
yeah.
to warm up.
when
like,
it's 9-0, Adbert should get to go home, like go take a nap, make sure you're ready for tomorrow. He shouldn't even be in the ballpark, let alone warming up and coming into the game.
Right. Yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one. This
Craig
was
in the chat, if Tyone throws 8 shutout innings tomorrow, remind me whenever I'm on next, because we'll give you a shout out. Because yeah,
I don't know what to expect out of Tyone. You mentioned he's gonna have a few extra days. He's coming off his worst start of the year. I don't know, man. The Cubs need him to be better. That's as simple as that.
I mean, I hope that they don't waste this season. A good season from Stroman, a good season from Steele, a good season so far from Smiley. I hope the other things that aren't going well don't waste what they're doing this season, because some guys are having good seasons. But Tyone is one of the guys that we're not telling him anything. He needs to be better. Like you said, like he knows he needs to be better. The Cubs knowing they got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because we said going into the season, that's the guy. Could he be their ace? Could Tyone be the ace of this team?
Especially when they talked about developing the sweeper and
All of it.
working with the Cubs pitching coaches and stuff like that. And I never like.
And if
sure,
it's the sweeper, Cody, then just stop it.
Right. Exactly.
Then just
I
go
agree.
back to what you were doing before you
Right.
got here.
Right. So yeah, did I buy into that? Yeah, sure. Whatever. I was wrong. Congratulations to everyone who thought that signing Tyone was a bad idea, I guess. I'll pat you on the shoulder. Do you feel any better? Do you
Well,
want
and, like,
to go streaking down Lakeshore Drive saying that you were right about that? Like congratulations.
they obviously need to get that right as soon as possible. But he's on a 4-year deal.
Right.
Like you got to get that right
For the good of the
literally
franchise.
whenever you can.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise that's just a sunk cost. Which it's very early to say that. Of course, there's plenty of examples of guys that have turned it around. But like, it's a 4-year deal. Like you don't need that right necessarily tomorrow, but like it is important that they figure that out one way or the other, because he's going to be here. They're going to be paying him, and you're going to need that rotation depth at some point. So, but to like your point about like wasting some of this stuff, like that's the thing. Like there's some in the chat that are still trying to be optimistic. There's some in the chat that are like, this team was never good. That's why people didn't predict them to do good, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I get all that. Like, I think where the frustration comes in from, though, is what you were saying, where you did start the season getting another like stellar all-star level performance from Justin Steele, from Marcus Stroman. You were getting literally the 99th, maybe even 100th percentile outcome on Cody Bellinger, right? These things were happening. Ian Happ doing the same thing he was last year, another all-star worthy campaign. Like, there's not always an answer. And obviously Mervis has come up and struggled. Morel has come up and been out of control, right? The issue that I think a lot of people have is that there wasn't more urgency with some of this stuff. right? Like, why? And it's not about each individual guy. They're not all responsible for it. Like, as though, Eric Hosmer's the reason they're bad, right? But when you look at, okay, how long did that go on? How long was Madrigal still getting starts and leading off in the lineup? How long is Mastroboni going to be given an opportunity to turn things around, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? The frustration comes from you were getting really good performances from a lot of these guys, and the lack of urgency, the lack of being correct on some of those marginal roster moves that you made has put them in this position where you were not able to capitalize on those things. If you went back and told me in the offseason that through, whatever portion before he went down, and he struggled before that, but the numbers were still there, Cody Bellinger was going to look closer to the MVP version of himself than the bad version that the Dodgers let go, I would have asked you, how many games in first place is this team? And, instead we're talking about a horrible game against the Reds, and they're 6 games under. That's where the frustration comes in. Not because we all legitimately believed this was some sort of juggernaut that was going to be, fending off the Rays for a World Series title. It's that things went really well in a lot of ways, and they weren't able to do anything with it, and we're still sitting here trying to figure out what they can do and whether it even matters.
If you don't feel good, you want to look good. And if you want to look good, you go to FOCO. Get fitted out with the best sports gear around, hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. Spring baseball season, they got the Aloha shirts. Straw hats, polos, bags, you name it. Look at our set decorations. Wesneski, Clark the Cub. We've got it all. Thank you for that. Check out FOCO.com. Click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Cody's going to the game. You're not using Game Time. You are using Game Time.
I am using Game Time. Game Time.
Amen,
I only use Game
brother.
Time.
Amen.
Amen. I'm a company man, as I think Ryan has put it in the Slack channel of late. Game Time is my second favorite app, Luke. DraftKings Sportsbook is my first favorite app. But buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So last time I was at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, I went because of Game Time. Had a great time. The weather was decent. And I got the lowest price I could get because I waited until day of to get them. That's the beautiful thing.
Tomorrow, 73. Sunday,
Time.
77. 82 Monday.
Oh, boy. Memorial Day weekend. If the Cubs don't play good, at least you can, hang out there and, get some sun and enjoy the weather. At least that's the one thing you're always going to get at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. So you go using Game Time. It's a beautiful thing. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy. I love that feature, by the way. So you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. I get all this junk mail all the time. Thank God I don't have to go through it and try to find my tickets from Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Janet Jackson in town this weekend.
Oh, really?
Tinley Park.
That's not in town.
Well, in the area.
That was very Chicago of me to say, but
yeah.
Now you're a true
I didn't say
Chicago.
am I a true Chicagoan now?
In Chicago. I said she's in town.
You said she's in town, like you're saying
in
she's
town
here.
Is it in the area?
Like
Cody's
20 miles
gatekeeping
south.
Chicago right now.
Yes, he should.
Also,
Hi, Ryan.
Also, hello, guys.
The vibes are great in here, as I imagine you assumed.
Seems like it, yeah. They may be as high as they were in the clubhouse today, I think.
What do we need to know from that clubhouse or from David Ross after the last 2 days, Ryan?
I mean, another tough 2 games, right? After 2 good games against the Mets to open up the homestand, they dropped the one yesterday and then, getting no hit for, 7 innings today? Like, yeah, if it kind of feels like one of those things where they're taking steps forward and maybe it looks like they're starting to get into a groove and then all of a sudden they take a couple steps back. And, I think they're good about putting it into perspective that they're now 50 games into the season. There's still 112 to play. There's a lot of baseball, and regardless, the most they can be back at the end of tonight is 5.5 in the division. So there's that perspective, but I know no one wants to hear that, right? People just want to see them win games, and it's been a pretty long stretch where they're going through these ups and downs. Who knows where the end of that is? It's not really in sight right now because they just lost one to the Reds and one to the Mets. So, I think those guys are keeping things into perspective as far as like they have had success in bunches at least at the beginning of the year. They know they have competed with some of the best teams in baseball, especially that, the one Dodgers series in LA comes to mind when I say that. But, it's about where at that point in time, they were getting good performances from the hitters, good starting pitching, solid bullpen, like for the most part, everything, at the same time. Now it feels like at least one of those, if not 2 or 3 of them, are off every game. So I think it's about figuring out how to get those all working at the same time. I know we talked about that during the road trip too, when they went 2-7. It just seemed like there was always one part of the game that was just losing them games. That's what it's about. That's how they're going to start winning, is to get all of those 3 aspects of the game synced up and playing well at the same time.
Did anyone, or maybe even you, ask, like, Seiya Suzuki's status today? Was it like an automatic off day, or?
He was just off. He was just off today. And that could just be David Ross, not hiding something. I don't think that's the best way to say it, but maybe something's bugging him, right? Maybe there's some off the field issue that he hasn't had an off day besides like their off days for teams. Like he hasn't had a game day off in weeks. But even there could be something that necessitated he get the day off today, other than just like a scheduled off day. And David Ross will wear that. He won't tell us that. He's gonna keep that in the clubhouse and keep that to himself. And I see the lineup discourse, and someone I think they tagged you maybe, Cody, about why Seiya wasn't in the lineup against when he smokes fastballs or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's just like at that point I kind of laugh. I'm like, it's a day off, and no matter what, the lineup discourse is like, we're never gonna know the real answer of why he got the day off, if it is just a scheduled day off or not. And it's like, there could be something else behind the scenes in the clubhouse that just he needed the day off today, and David Ross won't tell us that. And I understand some of the frustrations with the lineups, but that one I don't know. I'm just kind of talking, I guess, but that one I didn't have a problem with, regardless of who was on the mound. Say I needed an off day, he needed an off day, and that's kind of it.
Here, go ahead. You go it.
No, I was just going to – you can follow up on it. I was going to ask about Assad. I can wait.
Okay. Well, then to go off that, was there a particular reason why David Ross, perhaps if asked, did he explain why Morel was playing right field instead of Tauchman when Morel has more experience at Wrigley in center field?
I think – it wasn't really explained, but I think, Mike Tauchman had played some solid defense out there in this. He's been up for a week or so now. Has played some solid defense there while Bellinger's been on the shelf. It's another point where I guess another position where Morel just kind of needs to fill in when that opening comes, I guess. Morel didn't really take advantage of it today. Misplayed a couple balls, took a couple bad routes, lost that one in the sun. That I don't know that he would have caught that anyway, but losing it in the sun obviously didn't make it look any better. that's not like
or Shady Rays especially.
Shady Rays Shady Rays probably he would have
Was
seen
it
that ball from
Girardi
the
that was
jump.
really pissed about that? Girardi or Boog was really hammering that. Can I ask about Steele before you guys
Sure.
go Assad? Ryan, I'm just curious, anything from Steele or Ross on Steele, just as I think you tweeted, it was a pretty uncharacteristic day for him in terms of getting hit pretty hard. I didn't look to see if they were barrels, but he's a guy that really does not give up hard contact like we saw today.
Yeah, I mean, Ross kind of put it pretty simply, like it was just kind of one of those days where they got to him, I think he mentioned something, maybe the slider wasn't biting as much, and Steele kind of about the slider itself, he said he felt like there was sometimes when he thought he threw good sliders and they just did a good piece of like fouling him off or spitting on it, not even swinging at him. So there were points, and if you go look at the pitch chart, I looked at it earlier, the pitch chart of where the pitches that went for hits, where they were. Some of those sliders just caught too much of the plate. Some of those four seamers just caught too much of the plate, and he's very good at limiting barrels, limiting hard contact. The hard hit rate is like a 97th percentile coming into today, and I think they both kind of feel like it was just one of those days where the Reds saw him well, didn't, they were aggressive, didn't, swing at the bad pitches as much, and were able to take advantage of the ones he left over the plate. And, it's, like you said, it's very uncharacteristic of what Justin Steele's been so far this year. I don't expect that to be, it feels more like a blip on the radar for him, considering how good he's been so far this year. It was just one of those days where the good pitches they did a good job of staying alive on, or just not even swinging at them. And then the ones he left over the plate, they were able to take advantage.
Any early update on the ass man? He was. I mean, he ate some innings. Like give him that. Yeah. Like he was good.
Well, okay. Sorry, I was like, you got an early update on the ass man. I thought did he get injured or did I miss that?
The calf thing. He was looking at his calf, and then they.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that post game. We didn't talk about that post game, so I don't want to speculate on anything. But that is, speaking of the ass man, that's why they brought him up, right? That's what Assad is here for, is to eat some innings, especially in a game where Steele only goes 3 2/3. The game's pretty much over a few innings into the game, and you don't want to just waste a bunch of bullpen arms when you realistically don't need to. Assad covered a bunch of innings, gave up a couple runs, but managed to get, when did he come in? The 5th inning, something like that, and get almost all the way through to the end. So, no update on if there's anything bugging Assad, but it is what he was supposed to do. He ate up some innings. It was maybe some garbage time innings, and didn't look as sharp as he has a few times this season. But he did a good job of helping preserve the bullpen when they kind of needed it, considering that game was pretty much over, before he even got in the game.
Yeah, that's true. And Tyone tomorrow, so you don't know how many guys you're going to need tomorrow. So he's saving it for tomorrow's bullpen too. All right, any other nugget we need to know, Ryan, before we flush this game and try to forget it ever happened?
On Bellinger was eligible to come off the IL today. I don't believe, I think what David Ross kind of said pregame is that they're still, they just want to make sure that knee is pain-free before they really start to ramp up the baseball activities and stuff. So maybe there's just still a little bit in there that's bugging him. Probably taking a little bit longer than they hoped to get completely back right where he could start to build back up again. So I think right now it's just a little more rest, getting things calmed down. He's doing a few things, tracking balls in cages, doing things that he's able to do without putting any stress on the knee, I guess, is the best way to say it. But for right now, it's just still kind of looking like there's just they're going to need some more rest, some more time to get the pain completely gone before they start to ramp him back up and and activate him, get him ready to go and get back in the lineup.
Sounds good. Look for Ryan's stuff at allchgo.com. Diehards have access to everything. You should too. I say we flush it. Kawoosh. There it goes into the system.
Are we going to flush who you got too?
No, we shouldn't.
Corey wins. Just
No,
quick.
we
Corey
probably
won. This
shouldn't.
guy got the first and one of 2 hits.
Broke up a
There was a long time there where I thought Mike Talkman with that one walk was going to win who you got.
Brendan was going to get it all.
Congrats,
on
Corey.
a walk.
Yeah. Brutal. Outscored 19-1 in less than 24 hours. Not ideal. Anyways, we hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. You guys have one coming on Sunday, right?
Cody's coming for you.
Why?
Matt Gregory. Get ready.
Oh, Matt Gregory. Yeah.
Cody's coming. He's on the way soon.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing back some cocktails.
I know I'm not going to speak for him, but that was
I'm going to go get a
full
beer.
pocket Pilsners.
I'll go get a beer with him. I'm the man of the people, man. Like, Matt Gregory is a huge supporter of not only CHGO Cubs, but CHGO Sports. So
yes,
I'll go get a beer with him. That's the least I could do for a guy who traveled all the way across this country to come watch this team lose 9-0 today and almost get no hit. That's the least I could do for him.
Beer.
Right, a Goose Island beer. Pocket Pilsner. If one turns into 10, that's okay too. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Have a great weekend. Corey, Brendan on Sunday, live. Be there. Until then, fly the W.